she said. "He's a nobody. I only dated him because I was bored and felt sorry for him." I just smiled. I waited until the local news crew arrived at the charity gala we were attending. Then they introduced me as the anonymous philanthropist who funded the entire event. When her jaw dropped on live television, I, Asher, 37, male, had been with Leela, 35, for 5 years. Our life in Charleston, West Virginia, was a meticulously curated exhibition of her social ambitions. We lived in a stunning modern home in the South Hills, a house I owned but that she had decorated to be featured in regional lifestyle magazines. I had a quiet, unassuming career as a freelance historical researcher, a vague title that brought in a modest $70,000 a year. Leela was the ambitious and highly visible development director for the city's largest children's hospital, a position that earned her $120,000 and made her a central figure in the state's philanthropic community. Our social life was a calendar of her fundraisers, dinners at exclusive places like Lori's, and weekends with her friends, a circle that treated my quiet academic pursuits as a quaint, but ultimately insignificant hobby. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. The opportunity that would change everything was not an offer, but an inheritance. My grandfather, a quiet industrialist who had lived a simple life, had passed away a year prior, leaving me as the sole heir to his massive and completely anonymous charitable foundation. The board had given me a year to grieve and learn the ropes. Now, they wanted me to step into my role as the new chairman. This wasn't just a job, it was a lifetime of responsibility. It required a move to the foundation's headquarters in Philadelphia and a transition from a private, anonymous life to a very public one. I presented a carefully edited version of this to Leela. I told her I had been offered a formal, full-time position with the foundation, a mid-level administrative role managing historical archives. I framed it as a move towards stability. She listened with the polite, patient smile she usually reserved for my discussions of 19th century Appalachian history. "An admin job, Asher?" she asked, her voice a delicate blend of pity and disappointment. "For a dusty old family foundation. That's not a career move, it's a retirement plan." She shook her head, her tone final. "My entire career is here. I'm on track to be the CEO of this hospital's foundation one day. You can't expect me to trade that for your hobby of filing old papers." Update 1. I quietly accepted the chairmanship of the foundation. Leela's immediate dismissal of a role that represented a profound shift in my life was a clarifying moment. My life, my purpose, was an inconvenient subplot in the grand narrative of her ambition. She continued her campaign to frame me as a man without drive. Over cocktails with her friends, she sighed with performative sadness. "Asher wants to take a little desk job in Philadelphia," she said. "He's just not built for the kind of world we live in. He needs something simpler." Her friends, who measured life in titles and social connections, offered their sympathies. "You need a partner who is a peer, Leela," one of them said. "Not a project." I offered no defense. I had already begun my own logistical preparations. I opened a new set of private bank accounts in Philadelphia. Through a trust, I purchased a beautiful, historic stone manor on the main line. I also began to wield my new power in a quiet, targeted way. The hospital's annual charity gala, Leela's biggest event of the year, was struggling with its fundraising. Through my foundation's lawyer, I made an anonymous, 7-figure donation, enough to underwrite the entire event and secure the funding for a new pediatric wing. The hospital's CEO was sworn to secrecy about my identity. The stage was being set. Update 2. The night of the gala was the culmination of a year of her work and a lifetime of my family's. The ballroom was a sea of West Virginia's elite, a world where Leela was a star. I played my part, the quiet, unassuming partner in a simple, well-made suit. During a quiet moment by the bar, I overheard her talking to a group of her friends. She gestured vaguely in my direction. "He's a nobody," she said with a dismissive laugh. "I only dated him because I was bored and felt sorry for him." I walked over to the group, a calm, pleasant smile on my face. Her friends looked horrified. Leela just looked annoyed. The music swelled, and the hospital's CEO, a good man named Mr. Davison, was walking toward the stage to begin the evening's speeches. Just before he reached the stage, I turned to Leela. "I can't do this anymore," I said, my voice quiet but firm. I'm moving to Philadelphia next week. We're done. She looked at me, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. She thought she had finally pushed me to my breaking point. Don't be so dramatic, Asher, she whispered. We'll talk about this later. No, I replied calmly. I think we'll talk about it now. Update 3. Mr. Davison took the stage, the room falling into a respectful silence. He spoke of the hospital's mission, of the children whose lives depended on the generosity of the people in that room. This year, he began, his voice thick with emotion, we have been blessed with a gift that can only be described as a miracle. An anonymous philanthropist, a man with deep roots in this state, has made a donation that will not only fund tonight's event, but will allow us to break ground on the new Worthington Pediatric Wing next month. A wave of gasps and applause went through the room. Leela was beaming, accepting the congratulations of those around her, as if she had personally secured the donation. For years, Mr. Davison continued. This man and his family have given quietly, without any need for recognition, but tonight, he has allowed me to break his anonymity, so that we may all properly thank him. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd until they locked with mine. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor to introduce the man who made this night, and our new pediatric wing, possible. The new chairman of the Worthington Foundation, Mr. Asher Vance. A single, bright spotlight hit me, the local news camera, broadcasting the event live, swiveled in my direction. The room was a vacuum of stunned silence. I stood up. On the two large screens on either side of the stage, the camera zoomed in on Leela's face. Her jaw had dropped, her perfect, confident smile replaced by a mask of pure, uncomprehending shock. Her friends were staring at her, their expressions a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. I walked past her table on my way to the stage, my steps steady and sure. I didn't look at her. I didn't have to. The entire state was watching. Update 4. 6 months in Philadelphia was a period of profound purpose. My life was no longer about attending parties, it was about changing lives. As chairman, I directed the foundation's vast resources toward projects that mattered: medical research, educational initiatives, and historical preservation. My new home was a quiet sanctuary, a place of substance and history. The Bentley Bentayga the foundation provided was a comfortable, powerful vehicle, a quiet symbol of a different kind of life. Our first major public initiative was a multi-million-dollar grant to establish a network of rural medical clinics throughout Appalachia. The project made national news. One evening, I received an email from an old acquaintance in Charleston. Asher, it read, the story of that gala is still the talk of the town. No one can believe it. Leela is a social pariah. She told everyone you were a nobody, she pitied. The words, once meant to wound, now felt like a distant echo from a different life. I replied politely but kept my distance. That was a complicated evening. I wish everyone well. Update 5. Forbes magazine ran a feature story on the new faces of philanthropy. My picture was on the cover, with the headline, The Quiet Billionaire. Asher Vance Reinvents a Family Legacy. The article detailed the Worthington Foundation's $9 billion endowment and my new, aggressive strategy for charitable giving. The article was a public, verifiable record of my new reality. It circulated online, and the shockwaves finally reached the last corners of my old life. Leela's emails began that night. Chairman, billionaire. You let me believe you were a struggling academic. One accused. You deliberately planned my public humiliation? Another claimed. Then came the calls from her old friends, their voices now filled with a fawning, desperate respect. My own family, who had known the truth of our family's wealth all along, but had honored my desire for a quiet life, were simply proud. The verifiable, public truth had finally and completely silenced her private, manipulative lies. Update 6. She appeared on my doorstep in Philadelphia a month later. She had flown in unannounced, a desperate pilgrimage to the life she had so carelessly dismissed. She looked smaller, her usual confident energy replaced by a brittle, anxious uncertainty. Asher, she began, her voice soft. I was wrong, about everything. What were you wrong about, Leela? I asked, my voice flat. I was blind, she said, tears welling in her eyes. I was so caught up in that world, I lost sight of what was real. But I've been in therapy. I've changed. I see now what a wonderful, meaningful life you have here. I can be the partner you deserve. I looked at her, and the memory of her face on that television screen, the moment her carefully constructed world shattered, was as clear as the autumn air. "You didn't just lie to me, Leela," I said. "You were ashamed of me. You pitied me, and you told everyone I was a nobody. I was desperate." She insisted. "No," I replied calmly. "You were dishonest. There is no foundation to rebuild on." I stepped back inside. "Goodbye, Leela." Update 7. Her rejection fueled a final, vindictive act. She filed a lawsuit, claiming that our 5-year relationship constituted a common law marriage, and that she was therefore entitled to half of the assets I had inherited. It was a pathetic, transparent legal maneuver. My foundation's legal team, a squadron of the best lawyers in the country, was prepared. They filed a motion to dismiss, citing the fact that West Virginia does not recognize common law marriage. They also submitted a mountain of evidence, including sworn affidavits from her own friends, detailing her consistent, public dismissal of my career and my lack of ambition, proving that there was no shared partnership to be compensated for. The judge dismissed her claim in a single hearing, admonishing her for a frivolous and vexatious lawsuit. Update 8. A year passed. My work was my passion, and my life was full of a quiet, profound joy. I was in a new, healthy relationship with a woman named Dr. Evelyn Reed, the brilliant pediatric oncologist who was now running the new Worthington Pediatric Wing at the Charleston Hospital. Our connection was built on a shared sense of purpose and a deep, mutual respect. One evening, a final email from Leela arrived. She had lost her job at the hospital foundation. The story of her public humiliation and her frivolous lawsuit had made her a toxic asset in the world of philanthropy. She had moved to a different city and was working a low-level job in marketing. "I built my life around an image," she wrote. "And you showed everyone it was a lie. I am sorry for the pain I caused." I replied with a short, polite message. "I wish you peace." I blocked her email address. Final update. Several months later, I was the keynote speaker at a national conference on philanthropy. After my speech, a distinguished older gentleman approached me. It was Mr. Davison, the former CEO of the Charleston Children's Hospital. He shook my hand warmly. "Asher," he began, "a brilliant speech. I've been following your work. A remarkable trajectory." He paused, his expression turning serious. "I'll never forget that night at the gala. It was the most perfect, poetic justice I have ever witnessed." He shook his head. "She called you a nobody," she pitied. "She never understood that true power isn't about being seen. It's about having the ability to make a difference when no one is looking." He smiled. "You were a nobody who changed the lives of thousands of children in our state." She was a somebody who ultimately changed nothing. His words brought a quiet, final sense of resolution. I reflected on the lesson of the past 2 years. A life built on the fragile scaffolding of public perception is a structure that is doomed to collapse. Leela had been so focused on curating an image of success that she had become blind to the substance of the man standing right next to her. By simply stepping into the light and claiming my own story, I hadn't just exposed her lie. I had revealed the profound, unbridgeable gap between her values and my own. And in the quiet, meaningful work of my new life, I had finally found my peace.